Hello and welcome back once again to Movie Reviews. So the second movie I got to see all the way across town at the second run theater, I guess they're called. They got 4 movies over there I was planning to see. I've actually 5 now because they just added another one. I managed to see 3 of them last night, plus Creed that I saw at the other theater. So the first one up at the second run theater, like I said, has been out for a little while. Actually, it is still playing at the theater uptown, so I could have waited till Tuesday to see it and paid like an extra. I paid $2 to see it. It would have been $6 on Tuesday, so I saved myself $4 waiting or going to see it over here instead of going to see it at the better theater. But it is technically still in theaters, so even though it's at the second run now, I still feel like it's early enough that I can get this one in. And that is The Last Witch Hunter. So, what did I think of The Last Witch Hunter? It was almost 2 hours of Vin Diesel walking around doing nothing. For some reason, I still kind of enjoyed the movie, but like I said, there wasn't a lot going on in the film. Pacing-wise, it could have been sped up quite a bit. They could have just had more going on in general. But at the same time, I kind of enjoyed it, but like I said, towards the end, it might just be because I was ridiculously tired once I got to the theater. I don't know why. I was wide awake. I get to the theater and suddenly I'm tired. But I managed to stay awake through all my movies. So that could be why I was having an issue with the pacing on this one. Just because I was kind of tired and I was like, oh my god, get it over with so I can get up and walk around a little bit and wake up. Yeah, so that's pretty much my thoughts on it. Let's get into the movie now. So we start out in olden times. I think they said like 800 some years ago. There's a plague that has wiped out a bunch of people, and I guess this religious order of, I think they were the Axe and the Cross. A bunch of church warriors decide that this plague was caused by this group of witches. Because I guess all witches at that time were evil. Or they weren't all evil, but they were all under the control of the witch queen. So this group of guys goes to destroy the witch queen, stop the plague, blah, 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 blah. So almost all of them die instantly except for one, Vin Diesel. So, and who I didn't even recognize as Vin Diesel at first because I completely forgot he was in this movie when I went to see it. I actually had forgotten what this movie was even about at all. And, like, I see this guy, I'm like, oh, okay, this is going to be our main guy. And then, like, I didn't even recognize his voice at first. And then it cuts to, like, future time, and it's like, oh, wow, it's Vin Diesel. But, rewind. So they go in to kill the witch, and he's the only one who manages to survive, and he actually kills her, but when he kills her, she curses him with immortality. She's like, you'll never rest, you'll never know peace, you'll never see your family again, whatever, because his family had been killed due to the plague. So he's cursed to live forever, and this church group or whatever basically says, hey, since you're going to be around, you can take out all the witches, because, over the course of the next however many years, you're going to be the only one with the type of knowledge to do this. So we'll keep the order going, but you're going to be our weapon type of thing. So at one point it skips ahead and it tells that the modern witches, who are more or less diluted half-breeds almost, it basically says like their magic had been diluted over the generations, so it's not as powerful, but they all have potential to be powerful. But they end up making a peace with the church. They develop this witches' council where if any of them break the law or use magic against humans that would cause a potential war again, they're taken before the council and the council punishes them. So this witch council is working in unison with this church order, and they're kind of like the joint thing that keeps the peace. And Vin Diesel's their weapon. He goes out and anytime someone's any witches cause breaking the law or, doing something wrong, he catches them, brings them in, they stand trial, and they're sentenced. So he's basically still being their weapon. But for the most part, he leaves most of them alone. He has, like, working alliances with some of them. Like, if he needs information, he can go to them type of thing. they introduce his handler, who is Michael Caine, Alfred from the Nolan vs. Batman. I think that's Michael Caine. Yeah. Sorry, I had to think about it for a minute. I was like, am I getting his name right? Yeah, so he's his handler, who I guess is sort of a descendant or the next person to take up the role of... So back in the 800 years ago, there was this priest who was his friend who was helping him and everything. And I guess each generation, it's almost like a pope status where someone else in the church is elected to take over his role and help Vin Diesel's character and everything. So they said Michael Caine was the 36th person to take on the mantle. So because they're a church group and they're all priests, I doubt they're direct descendants. But in fact, I know they're not, because the 37th one comes into play and he explains his backstory. So yeah, Michael Caine's the 36th one, and he's going to retire, so they're going to introduce the 37th one. And right then, I'm kind of thinking that I know what the twist is going to be, but for a long time, they made it look like that wasn't where they were going. So I was actually kind of cool with that, and then when it came out, I was like, yeah, I called it earlier, but good job leading me astray from forgetting about it until now. So anyway, the 37th one is introduced, and they're going around trying to find out, because they find out that the 36th one was murdered. He didn't just die. So they're trying to track down who killed him, and they're working together, and then they find out who killed him. They bring him into the witch council. Then Vin Diesel's character realizes that Michael Caine's character was leaving him clues about something, so he's trying to follow that. And then he has to go back into his memory so he can observe the time that he died and was reborn. When the immortality finally took in, because he was actually killed, but then at one point he was revived with the immortality. So he has to see what happened in that time that he was technically dead before his rebirth. So he's going to see this witch to try and get a memory potion, and she's reluctant to help him, but she does anyway. And then he finds out like who killed Alfred, who I'm going to call Michael Caine. I was going to call him Alfred through the whole thing, but I'll call him Michael Caine. So he finds out who actually was involved in the killing, because he thinks the first guy didn't work alone, but the witches' council's like, well, we would know if he was working with someone else. And Vin's convinced that he was working with other people, so he's still investigating. He finds out that he was. Spoilers. And he finds out who all's involved, and he's tracking them down. So he manages to track all them down. He goes through all this crap to try to remember this one little incident. And, this is the point where the movie starts to drag on, because it's like, okay, you're not really telling me the story. You're just kind of reiterating the same thing over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. And so much of this could have been trimmed down, but then you would have had, a 45-minute movie. So, yeah, a lot of it's just there for padding. So over the course of the next hour, we finally get to the bottom of everything, that he finally gets to see what this memory that he missed was. And it turns out that the only way to kill the Witch Queen was to pierce her heart and burn it, which he originally did, but then they removed his sword from her body, and it turned out her heart was still beating, so they were going to pierce it and burn it over a fire and completely destroy it. And at that point, his body was starting to reform from the way he was killed, so they knew he was still alive. So as they're piercing and burning the heart, he's screaming in pain, and they realize that his immortality is directly connected to the heart. So instead of destroying it and letting him die, they decide to keep it, because that way they can keep their friend, who later becomes their weapon. So now he has to track down where the heart is, and they end up finding it, but of course the other side gets it first, and the Witch Queen's reborn, so then he has to fight the Witch Queen again. Then you have your little twist ending that I talked about earlier, but I'm not going to say what it is, because, like I said, it's kind of obvious when it first comes up that that's what it's going to be. It has a fun payout, too, because the Witch Queen's kind of like, yeah, you're nothing. I'm not going to go into too many more spoilers other than that. If you want to know what it was, go watch it. It's probably easy to figure out just by the way I've described the movie and when I first started talking about the twist. So Vin ends up killing the Witch Queen, and it turns out that upon killing her, because she had stripped away his immortality to be reborn, so he was actually able to be hurt again. But upon killing her, his immortality returns and like all his wounds start to heal. And then he realizes that the heart's still there, and he's considering destroying the heart. And then the other witch who's been helping him the whole time says, I had this vision that there's things more evil than the queen that are just below the surface, and they're just waiting. He says, waiting for what? And she says, the best I can figure is a world without you. So we still need you. So it's kind of like the fact that you exist is keeping all these monsters at bay. So he agrees to do what he was against the group doing in the first place, which was what he was all pissed off about and why he went apeshit towards the end. And that was that they kept the damn heart. So he decides, okay, well, if you need me, then I can't destroy the heart because it's the direct link to my immortality, but I'm going to keep the heart this time. I'm not entrusting it to them, because that way only I'll know where it's at, and if anyone's, no one can be tortured to get the information unless they're going to torture me, and good luck with that. So he hides the heart away, and, now he is immortal again. So that's kind of where the movie ends. Funny part here, I was going to wait and see if there was anything after the credits, but I had to use the bathroom so bad at this point, I just walked out and went to the bathroom. And then I was trying to kind of like peek back into the theater while they were cleaning to see if there was anything after the credits, but they were kind of like looking at me weird, like I was theater hopping or something, so I was like, oh, screw it, I'll go out and buy my other ticket. So I go out and buy a ticket for the next movie, and it turns out it's going to be in the exact same theater. So I come back in through the door, walk in, and they finished cleaning the theater. The credits were still rolling. I go in and I sit down. I get to watch the end of the credits while I wait for the next movie to start. So there wasn't anything after the credits. So, but that was kind of cool that it ended up being in the same theater. In fact, all three of the films that I saw at that theater were in that theater because they only had one run that day, and I guess that's the one that is easiest for them to switch out. So yeah, that was pretty much The Last Witch Hunter. As far as a star rating on this one, like I said, I liked this movie, but at the same time, it was a lot of Vin Diesel not doing anything. The pacing could have been trimmed down a lot, but then it would have been like I said, like a 45-minute movie at most. Which, Disney's done features that are only like 45 minutes, so why not? Be a nice short movie, get people in and out. So as far as a star rating, I'm going to say it's more or less a middle-of-the-road movie, but like I said, the pacing throws me off, and there wasn't a whole lot. Like, being The Last Witch Hunter, I thought he was going to go around, like, fighting a bunch of witches, and he barely did anything through the whole movie until the beginning and the end. Like, the whole middle was nothing. I have to drop this one down slightly below middle of the road. I'm going to do, like, a 2.5 on this one. Yeah, like 2.5 out of 5, I guess. Yeah. Not much else to say about it other than that. So that's The Last Witch Hunter starring Vin Diesel. So if you like Vin Diesel films, go check it out, but there's not a whole lot of substance to this one. So that is it for this episode. I will be back shortly with another episode, but again, you'll probably see it tomorrow, depending on when these are coming out. So until then, again, as always, thanks for watching. Oh, and as I forgot to say in the last two videos, remember to like, comment, rate, subscribe, share, whatever else I usually try to say. Yeah, do all that. So that is it, and until next time, we'll see you at the movies.